Hey everyone, it's Alex Nottingham, founder and CEO of Ulster Dental Academy, and I just did a great interview with Tae Kim. He's the founder of Financial Tortoise. This is a YouTube channel, big YouTube channel, that's focused on getting rich slowly, because slow and steady is the name of the game, and he firmly believes in this mantra. He creates weekly content about personal finance, investing, and building wealth slowly. And that's the introduction that he gave me, and I love it. It's simple and to the point. And as we talk about in the podcast that I've talked to you all about as well, which is this idea of slow and steady too, right? I give an example in our training program about the tortoise versus the hare. We know who won the race. It was a slow and steady tortoise. And all the books that I've read and studied and all the great teachers I studied under for investing, it's all about boring, slow and steady. And I love what Tae talked about in the program, which was investing should be like watching paint dry. I love that. It's just doing it where it's automatic, it's easy, and you can go focus on the things that you really love and enjoy, and then at the end of the day, you have a great investment without too much trouble. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what slow and steady means, and we cover some great things in the podcast and some mind traps or minefields to be wary of and to overcome. You're really going to enjoy this podcast, and you're really going to enjoy also listening or watching his YouTube channel, which we provide links to. So take a listen, enjoy, and I'm going to see you in the interview. Please welcome Tae. Great to have you.
Great. Thanks for having me, Alex.
Yeah. And our topic for today is simple investing for dentists. Because a lot of our dentists, my followers, and even as back with my father, growing up with my father as a dentist, just so many complicated things out there. And and I'll tell you, my dentists love the new and shiny, bright object. And this is an aside. I'm on Netflix. They have a show about Bernie Madoff. Speaking of not simple, okay,
Yep.
That's the extreme of investing. So I like to make this simple for dentists. And can you tell me a little bit about you? I came across your YouTube channel. Tell us a little bit about you, what you teach, and what inspired you to start this YouTube channel, Financial Tortoise.
Sure. Thanks for the intro, Alex. So as you mentioned, I have a channel called Financial Tortoise. And as the name Tortoise implies, slow and steady is kind of the theme of the channel. It's all a ripoff of the tortoise and the hare, the race between the slow and steady and the fast, the fast hare. At the end, the tortoise wins because really, investing, like life, is just kind of staying on the path, not getting distracted, staying focused, and just trying to get to the end line. So yeah, I started this channel a couple years ago. So my background is I worked in corporate finance for about 10 years, but my wife and I, when we first got married, we actually started out with $105,000 of student loans. So our financial journey, our personal finance journey, started with realizing that we had to get our financial household in order. And it took us about 3.5 years to pay down our student loans. And then over the 10-year period, since I started my career, and then when we had the student loans, we were able to steadily, after we had our student loans paid off, we were able to use that to invest. And then still slow and steady, we built our wealth to a point where, we have financial options in our lives now. And throughout, the reason I think the reason why we started our marriage with $105,000 student debt was because I made every financial mistake that you could think of out there. What do you call it? Loan to own furniture for my first apartment. I've leased a car, that wasn't necessary for a 24-year-old. I've invested in actively managed mutual funds, believing a lot of investment managers, giving them the key to my investment. So all of these mistakes, I think, helped me to realize that, we can't be a passive passenger in our financial journey, but we have to be an active participant. And I think after, making all these mistakes and trying to get myself smarter about personal finance, what I realized is that usually the simplest solution is the best solution. And then as long as we're willing to follow that simple solution for a long period of time, that's how we can win financially. As easy as that sounds, that's actually probably one of the hardest things to do. It's just kind of like anything in life, right? For us to, we want to get fitter. And then usually, the simplest solution is, eat healthy food and exercise.
Right.
But none of us want to hear that. We want to all
Yeah.
hear like, how do I get, a ripped six pack in 6 weeks? Like we want
While
the shortcuts.
while eating cookies.
Exactly. Yeah. Eat anything I want and I still want a six pack. And,
Right.
it just doesn't work like that. So I think that's where, kind of a long story on how I was inspired to want to share what I learned and then start this YouTube channel to just kind of wanting to cut through a lot of the complexities, unnecessary complexity that the financial media and the industry tries to make personal finance to be, and then try to share that with as many people as possible.
I love it. And I love the analogy of the tortoise versus the hare. I use that in our online training program for dental offices because when I was in college, I was a study skills specialist. I would help people study. And it was when you did little by little versus everybody wanted to cram last minute. That
Right.
was the key. And we advocate that learn little by little, and over time the effect is fantastic versus I'm going to cram one day and train my entire team and they know it for life. Doesn't work that way. We're creatures of habit, and look, our health is going to be a product of many years of how we treat our body, and our
Right.
wealth will be a product of many years of how we treat the body. And it's a very simple concept. And I think many would agree with what we're saying, but it's hard because day in, day out, we go, oh, well, what's the market doing today or yesterday or what happened or what has it done for me? And then, oh, this person's doing this. So give us your philosophy in your videos is often about just getting a low cost mutual fund, okay, index fund. Your favorite is, as of recently, was the Vanguard Total Stock Market or the Fortune 500. Why is that typically enough? Is that your recommendation? Is just little by little buy that fund? There's so many great stocks that I can buy. Why that? And what's the impact of that over time?
Yeah. So I think once again, I mentioned earlier, I've purchased actively managed mutual funds in the hopes that I could make more money than the average. However, I think for the average individual investors or just average people in general, investing in broad market index funds, like you mentioned, and one of my personal favorites is VTSAX, or there is a S&P 500 VFIAX.
In Vanguard. Yep.
In Vanguard, yes. These are the Vanguard specific. If you go to Fidelity or Schwab, they also have their equivalent. So the key with investing is really trying to keep costs down and then trying to not beat the market, but follow the market for the long period of time. I think what happens for a lot of us when we try to get into investing, because financial media has done a great job of, in a way, saying we need them in order to make money in the market. Financial industry is the whole stock market is very complex. There's a lot of stocks out there. We don't know how to navigate the financial industry. So we need to hire investment managers or financial advisors to help either find market beating funds out there or pretty much just trust them to manage our money for us. But I'm a firm believer that if we just learn the basic fundamentals, any one of us can be a bona fide investor. And a way we can become an investor is to buy low cost broad market index funds. And I think kind of to your audience, dentists became dentists because they were smart, they were good at school.
Right.
And I think one of the things that I've noticed is that it's hard for very intelligent people to accept a very simple solution to a complex, what they perceive as a complex problem.
Good point.
Investing in the market seems like a complex problem because of how the financial industry makes it. So when I recommend to people, all you have to do is just buy low cost broad market index fund, and just put little by little. As you mentioned earlier regarding studying, just to invest little by little every single month and invest for the next 10 years. And then that is one of the most effective ways to build your wealth and to have a portfolio of, close to $1 million or over $1 million in the long run. But it's hard for a lot of people to accept that because they're like, it can't be, that straightforward, that simple. Like what, how about all these cool stocks that I hear about, like Tesla or like Apple or new and up and coming companies? Or when I go to Morningstar, I see all these actively managed mutual funds that are supposedly beating the market. How about them? But I think what we forget is that a lot of these stocks, a lot of these active managed mutual funds, they make money when we are trying to beat the market. They don't make money if we're not buying the active managed mutual funds. So they're in a way they're not really set up best for the average investors, but really for the financial industry. So I think that's where I kind of come back to, like, when you want to effectively invest in the market, I mean, just focus on the simple solution. Simple is the best. And I think that's really one of the best ways to just grow your investment in the market.
And what I often say to dentists, and I'm sure this would apply to any professional who's not in financial, is use your time and focus to build whatever you're doing. So if you're a dentist, build your practice. That's your cash cow. That's what you maybe most enjoy, and then build that to enjoy your life. Ultimately, we're making money to have freedom to enjoy our life. And what's beautiful about what you're saying is I just put this on autopilot, leave it alone, and those hundreds of thousands become millions in 10, 20 years. And then I just live off that and I enjoy myself. The thing about financial advisors, and you probably speak to this often, is there's fees involved. They're taking 1%, regardless of the market going up or down. And that could be 25+% of your profits over time. And they're taking money even if there's a loss.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And
and you speak to how financial advisors and investment managers make money is, the expenses. It's called expense ratios. And they get paid regardless of how well the fund is performing or not performing. So if you just imagine, let's say, you're a hardworking dentist, you saved up $100,000, you put it into market, and if you have a fund manager that's taking 1% of your $100,000 investment, he's taking that $1,000 no matter how the fund is performing or not. And there's a lot of I don't want to say in a nice way, bit of a shadiness as regards to how a lot of these funds are also kind of marketed. I think a lot of times people look at Morningstar and say, oh, hey, I see this fund has done really well, so this fund manager is worth that extra percent. However, there is something called survivorship bias, where you don't see the funds that failed and they took off the list. And they might have started out with 10 funds, 20 years ago. And as out of these 10 funds, maybe, 3 of them survived till the end, and they've done well out of luck or maybe out of skill. You don't know. What happened to the other 7? They took it off the list, so you never see those 7.
Point. Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great point.
So then you only see the cream of the crop. You don't see the other stuff that failed. So you're like, oh, this fund manager is amazing. Like, he's beat the market the last 10 years. And those are things that I think, kind of like to you, what you mentioned earlier, I think what's important to know is you have your specific profession that you specialized in. A lot of times, I think there's this notion that we can, by reading some few 10Ks, going on Reddit forums, by looking at some, few investment books, that we can become like Warren Buffett, like a bona fide investor that knows all the ins and outs of the industry. But that's like even I have, friends that work in Wall Street, and even they're kind of scratching their heads at times because there's so many moving pieces, how the industry is changing, how a company is changing, how a company is changing. And, they have, tons of people that are researching companies all day long, yet they have a hard time beating the market. So then I think that's where it comes down to us as individual people who might have our specialty in other areas. How can we expect to beat the market? There's just no way. In the long run, the house is always going to win. So
True.
the best thing to do is to not try to beat the market, but buy the market at the lowest cost possible and then follow it for the long period of time. Because this is where, if you look at the if you look at the big picture in the last, if you keep, stepping back and look at the big picture, last 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the overall US economy and the market has an upward trend. And there is an average, annualized return. So that's what you want to try to bank your growth on, not try to beat that by all these weaving in and out or trying to
and
find
and it's
perfect stocks.
enough. It's enough at the end of the
Exactly.
day. I mean,
Yeah.
you're going to double your money every X amount of years. You're going to beat inflation. You're going to have plenty to live on.
Mhm.
It's all these detours, the
Yeah.
hare mentality, right?
Exactly.
That gets you
Exactly.
messed up because
Hmm.
the problem is, and my father went through this, you lose a half a million or $1 million in the market
Hmm.
or something,
Yeah.
then you then feel more anxious to make it up, and you become on
Exactly.
this hamster wheel. Oh,
Yeah.
now it's Bitcoin. What's the big thing? I think you may have said it or heard it somewhere else, but I like it, which is if you don't understand it, don't invest in it.
Yep. That's
And
true.
I like how you saying this is so simple. You see the numbers, and let's go through an example here because we can see why. I'm not going to get into why not to buy individual stocks because you don't know what you're doing,
Hmm.
right? Are you analyzing the profit or loss? Do you know the history? Do you know the company? Do you know what you're doing, right? And there's also risk. And here's the thing about individual stocks, which I'll mention in a moment, this momentarily, is you also need to be on them. You can't just sit
Hmm.
and forget it
Yeah.
because you got to
Exactly.
see what's going on. There's a
Hmm.
trend. If something goes on, Enron, they're out. You just lost that entire company,
Hmm.
right? And Tesla got was it down 50%?
Hmm.
You were like you saw everybody else riding high with it,
Hmm.
and then now it got cut, and then Bitcoin, everybody's so happy about
Yeah.
that, and
Yeah.
that's at like nothing. Now, the S&P 500, okay, down, and total stock market is mostly S&P.
Hmm.
It's down nearly 20% from last year. Gone up
Hmm.
a little bit last few days, whatever.
Yep. Yep.
How do you speak to that when people are
Yep.
like, "Oh, little by little, it just got dumped."
Right. So I guess I look at that as if we're looking at a 1 year return, that's too short term. We're trying to dance in and out of the market. We're trying to time the market, versus we want to take a broad, long term perspective in our investing. Just like in life, we want to take a long term perspective. So if you once again going back to the kind of analogy of and you can find this on Google anywhere, just type S&P 500 or total market the last 100 years, and you can find any graphs that show just the all the ups and downs that happen in every, you wind back, 10 years, we had times when we were down 30% during the housing market. Now you wind the clock back even more during the dot com bust, we had the market go down 20, 30%. You wind that back more, and then it just keep going back. There's
The Great
always crises
Depression.
that are happening. But then when you step back and look at the overall trend, the market has always trended up. So I would say the market being 20% down, I think it's not about like, if someone is concerned about that, I would say I would recommend take a big picture horizon.
Yeah.
I mean, are you going to pull the money out? Are you investing for the 1 year? Are you investing for the 1 year return? Then I don't think you're investing with a long term perspective. I think you're trying to time in and out of the market. And my recommendation is that we should always be investing for the long run, for the
Yeah, and
next 10 years.
there's nobody that can time the market
Exactly.
unless you create a Ponzi scheme. There's no way you can win every time. And it's funny, sad, whatever, crazy. But when the pandemic hit, the market tanked big, and
Hmm.
there was like that was a good reason to think the market would never come back up. I mean, everything, the entire world economy shut down.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
within what was it, 6 months, it all
Hmm.
time highs. Like,
Yeah,
how do
yeah.
you know? Like,
You do,
if I'm a
yeah,
betting person, I would say that would be the time it would go down and stay that way
hmm,
forever, but it just went up.
yeah.
So, uh, don't time the market. And I think there's some funny studies where they compared like a monkey throwing a dart
Hmm.
versus how hedge fund managers did, and the monkey performed just as well. I don't know. I
Hmm.
mean, it's
Hmm.
just good luck with it. But I love the idea of you just see, it's like anything. If you're doing an interview with somebody, what is your past track record?
Hmm.
What have you shown me over years? And you're saying that the total U.S. economy and or the S&P or what have you, 100 plus years of data. I
Hmm.
mean, who compares to that?
Right, right.
And
Yeah,
not Google, not Apple, but that's
yeah,
a lot of that's a big that's a big
yeah,
resume. How do you compete
yeah,
with that?
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. What do you think the biggest traps that professionals like dentists and others
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
into, and how can they avoid them?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it earlier, like professionals like dentists, well-educated, high income. This is prime target for, invest the financial industry, right? Like they want these dentists' money. And I think what's also dangerous is that professionals like dentists who went through all this formal education, and you have to be accredited to be a dentist. And I think a lot of times professionals in one industry, you might expect some similar level of I don't say professionalism, but some level of accreditation with the, let's say, the other party that you're working with. So with, you know, if you're working with a investment manager or a fund manager, or however uh like a financial advisor, right? So these are different terms that a lot of these people working for the financial industry might call themselves. So you as a dentist might assume that a lot of these people who have these fancy titles know what they're doing. They've researched the market. They're well accredited. They're vetted. But unfortunately, a lot of times, somebody who might have this fancy title is just out to sell you insurance, or is out to sell you um, a fund, and they only get paid uh, when they sell you the fund. Or if it's a fund manager, bigger their fund is, regardless of how well the fund is doing, they still get paid. So they want as many people in their fund as possible. So I would say that's where I think self-education and personal finance is so important. And it doesn't require, I mean, to go through the crazy studies that a lot of dentists have to do. It's not OCAM. It's just reading a couple finance books. Uh, very, like there's so many good ones out there, and then just getting yourself smart and educated upon basic personal finance. When it comes to investing, especially, just focus on, just simple. You can manage your own money. Focus on simple solutions, simple investments, and I think that will help to alleviate a lot of the pain. And I've gone through it myself. I've worked with financial advisors who told me this is the best fund that you want to put your money into, and I put my trust in that individual. And then later, 10 years later, I realized, like, oh, I was in this actively managed fund the whole time, where I was paying this fund export extra money that I didn't need to. I could have done much better in a simple index fund. So I think that's kind of my one piece of advice.
The Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, for example, some of these managers. I'll give one for example that comes to mind. A dentist that was investing, and then the dentist was asking the advisor was asking the dentist, "What funds do you want me to put it into?" So it's like, I'm paying you 1% and I'm picking the funds. I
Right.
could do it on my
Myself.
own. Doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. I know my dentist, they're big fans of books.
Hmm.
Okay. What are some books that you would recommend them that they would read for
Yeah, I would
for
say
investing?
for investing, I would say number one would be The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. He really distills down investing into, as the title mentions, a simple way to invest. He advocates for a two-fund strategy, a VTSAX for your equities, and a VBTLX for bonds. And before I read this book, I had my money in a lot of different funds as well. Even within the index fund world, there's a lot of complexity we can add to ourselves too. But I think it's one of the best books for just kind of simplifying investing. If you want to read one book about investing, I would say A Millionaire Next Door
I love
is
that
another
book.
excellent book just
Great
about
book.
mindset about millionaires. And then
And the point of the book is the millionaires you think are the millionaires are not what you think.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. That we see on social media, or it's not Kim Kardashian, like that's not what millionaires look like. It's
Right.
actually quite boring. And I would say, I'm sure you recommended this to Jim Dahl's White Coat Investor.
I recommended The Automatic Millionaire. That was
Okay,
another one.
okay. Yeah,
But you
so
said white coat investor. I never heard that one.
White
That's
Coat Investor. Yeah, so Jim Dahl, he's a physician. I forgot what type of physician, but it's made specifically uh, for physicians and very highly applicable to dentists as well. So he goes into the details about how to even start before starting medical school to in residency, how to live like a resident as an attending, all of that. I'm sure it's highly relevant to a lot of dentists out there.
another book is The Wealthy Barber. Have you seen that one? Read that one?
Yes, I haven't read it, but I heard about it.
It's a nice, again, it's all simplifying this
Exactly.
process and not making it more complicated than it needs to be. Uh, Tay, I really appreciate uh, I mean, again, simple. I mean, we can
Yeah.
belabor the points. I really recommend that those that are listening check out his YouTube channel, which we'll mention in a moment. And I think that all dentists should be subscribed. There are so many good videos besides just the Vanguard recommendations on. I like the one on frugality versus being cheap. That was a nice one on just laws of just living a life and I think this is great, dentists, that you listen to this, and team members, have your team members listen, because what Tay is teaching is basic and also a good advanced warm up that anybody that needs to start to get more comfortable in the world of finance needs to be taking a look at this YouTube channel. It's a gem out there, and dentist, team member, anybody alike, it's a really great well done job. And I like it because it's very also entertaining. You don't sit there, it's not boring. It's fast paced. You do a great job. It's a lot of work he puts into this. So tell us your YouTube channel, your download, your website. What can they get to engage with you?
Sure. Thank you. So I have a YouTube channel called Financial Tortoise. It's actually Tae Kim dash Financial Tortoise. So you can find it on YouTube. I upload at least videos every week. So hopefully you find those helpful. Thank you for saying they're entertaining. I'm surprised at times with the boring topic that it is that, people are engaging with them. So I'm very thankful for everybody who does that. I also have a website where I post, if you like more of the text version of the content I share on the video, I post the blogs there, and also have a email newsletter. There's a downloadable, my quick kind of PDF on, if you want to 10 steps to just kind of organize your finances, you can download that and you'll be on my email newsletter where I send out weekly tips about just money and investing. So if you'd like to engage with me and then just kind of learn more about slow and steady path to, growing your wealth, then just consider subscribing and checking out my website.
Awesome. And you'll send me all those links. We'll put that
Yes.
on the channel, on our website, everywhere, so they can get access to you. Tae Kim, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Great. Thank you, Alex.
All right, everybody. Until next time, go out there and be an all-star.